Hi, this is Ms. Hadi from Olympian High School, and we are going to continue talking about Southwest Asia. We're looking at Chapter 2 in Traditions and Encounters, Dr. Bentley. We just finished talking about the vignette in Chapter 2, and now we're going to be looking at the quest for order. So this is basically, if you're doing an inspect chart, the political part of your inspect chart. So if you were in the PowerPoint, you would see that it has some slides about civilization. I don't want to delve too deeply into that because we have a lot to cover. So I'm just going to not go into the historiography and the trouble with the word civilization. But for now, you could talk to me about it at office hours. But for now, let's just say that a civilization could be roughly defined as a civilization has an urban element, means city, has a city. Think Urban Outfitters, political and military system, social stratification, which means different groups in society, so maybe the wealthy, the poor, different classes or groups, economic specializations, people doing different kinds of work, religion, communication system, something like writing, higher culture, maybe some arts, music. Okay, now we know that when we have the end of chapter 1, we had the beginning of cities, our first cities, and this chapter is going to pick up with that as well, and the world's most ancient cities in Mesopotamia. So what we start to see as agriculture develops is this element of the concentration of wealth as people start to accumulate land. And it becomes really important to have control over natural resources, for example, land and rivers, because rivers are useful because you can take that water and divert it to agricultural lands. That's called irrigation systems. And we start to see an economy develop that's not hunter-gatherer, that's agricultural, that's defined by cultivating crops and the domestication of animals. Any of these words you can ask me about if you come to office hours. So in the last chapter, chapter 1, we looked at the common phenomenon of people discovering agriculture in different parts of the world and then it diffusing from those original sites of origin. You can look at that more in the book. So this is where I'm from, the land called Mesopotamia. The word Mesopotamia is a combination of two words in Greek that mean the land between the rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. In 2018, I traveled there with my mom, went back to my homeland. So this is contemporary Iraq, parts of Iran, part of the Fertile Crescent. You can read about that here. And we're going to keep learning about Mesopotamia to try to go quickly. So obviously when you have river water, that the land there is going to be nutrient rich. You can use that water for irrigation, and that requires or necessitates coordinated effort. So this might be another reason why states develop, so another cause other than needing to resolve conflict. And an effect is going to be of needing to have that coordinated effort to build an irrigation system. As I mentioned, you are going to lead to more states or local governments and eventually the rise of city-states, so cities that control themselves. In the land of Mesopotamia, in the southern part, it's called Sumer, and that part is really important. You need to write down in your notes, Sumer is southern Mesopotamia. They're going to begin small-scale agriculture around 6000 BCE, so growing barley, wheat, peas, and using small-scale agriculture to do that. And then that's going to lead to increasing agricultural wealth, which will attract migrants from outside. Now, the Sumerians themselves may have been migrants. We don't really know that. But in any case, they're going to attract migrants who are interested. And as these migrants, particularly Semitic people, come, it's going to change the culture of Sumer. It's going to be affected by these different migrants. So Semitic languages today include languages like Arabic, which I speak, and also Hebrew, but ancient languages might be Aramaic, Akkadian. You can read about them here. So right around 4000 BCE, we see Sumerian city-states develop. There's about 12 of them. Some of them are confirmed in other sources like the Bible. In our class, we don't take the Bible as being completely factual, and that's because we adopt a non-secular approach, but it does inform us that we have other sources that give us evidence that these city-states probably existed. Okay, something else that you should read about, so you've got the Sumerian city-states to look at. Notice that they compare them to the previous types of settlements that you studied, so look for the similarities and differences. They also built these, if you're doing an inspectorate, put this under art and architecture, culture, ziggurats, which are stepped pyramids. These are temples to the gods. You can read about them here, and you see that one was in Iraq, and also building irrigation systems and building reservoirs and canals. So you can read in the book here to look at this. And it also talks about how in addition to conflict, internal conflict, they had to deal with external invaders coming in, attracted to the wealth of the Sumerian city-states. So it also tells you that the city-states, had a belief in the divine mandate of kings, regulation of trade. This should be defense. This is the British race law and defense against nomadic marauders. There's an old ziggurat. And we'll talk about the government some more. Really quickly, I want to tell you that initially they were ruled by assemblies, that in times of crisis, a strong man would come to power, and eventually that would evolve into a political system of kingdom where the city-states were ruled by kings, and you can look at that. But they often shared power with nobles, so make sure you write that down. That makes them different from other places that we'll study. Okay. Next, we'll talk about empires.